It certainly is. Thank you very much, Peter. That and, of course, the FIFA elections. But it really is a focus on rugby that we're going to be bringing you in this sports bulletin. A very good morning to you. Now, when the Cheetahs run out against the Jaguares today, they'll be buoyed after their star player, Lood de Jager, was last night named South African Rugby Player of the Year. But the undertone, however, in the build-up to this year's Super Rugby competition in the country has been focused on the stuttering return of the Kings. But it's an expanded event. We've now got 18 teams featuring 2 new regions in Argentina and Japan. What can we expect over 17 rounds with the playoffs to be finalised in July? More rugby? Are spectators excited, or is it just too much? To discuss this, we have a seasoned rugby journalist, my colleague at SABC Sport, Vata Ngobeni. A very good morning. Thanks for waking up early and welcome to Morning Live.
Morning to you, Ellen, and to your viewers.
Okay, so let's start with the Kings, because that seems to have just been the common thread from the time that we knew that the competition was going to be expanded and South Africa had an extra team, the only country that has got 6 franchises, and it's really been very, very tough. They've been put under administration, but SARS stepped in a couple of weeks ago already to make sure that the Kings would actually be in Super Rugby.
Yeah, what a roller coaster ride it's been for them, the management, the players. But I think they've taken it within their stride. They've done well. Deon Davids came in at the beginning of the season to take over from Brent Jansen van Rensburg, who resigned at the end of last year. And they've managed, I think, to have the bulk of their squad together. They've trained well. They say they've trained well. And they're saying that they're working through the adversity. Well, one thing that Deon Davids did say, last week at the Super Rugby launch is that, it is through adversity that opportunity comes. And for them, they're looking forward to grabbing the opportunity of playing Super Rugby. Everything is against them. No one believes that the Kings are going to, get onto the field. And here they are. They've got a team. They're ready to get on the field against the Sharks at home in Port Elizabeth. But I think what's important, more than anything, is for all of the players to get on that field and seize the moment, because it doesn't come bigger than this for them.
I mean, there's a tag of being the underdog, and there certainly is a certain amount of oomph that gives the players, and we see it in so many sporting contexts. But one just thinks that there's so much stacked against the Kings, a team that wasn't a part of the competition last year. Do you think, on a team level, on a player level, that they'll be able to cope?
I think they'll struggle. I think pound for pound, the other franchises have got, far superior players who are better prepared, better coached. But I think at the end of the day, you only have to look back to 3 years ago when the Kings played Super Rugby, and no one gave them an opportunity. And we saw that memorable game they played in Canberra against the Brumbies, where they drew. And you look at some of those players. Jacques Engelbrecht is still there. The likes of Edgar Moratula there, Stephen Sykes is there. Sivir Zwapi is there. So I think the backbone of their team, the spine of their team, still remains there, and hopefully again, they'll look back to 3 years ago and see what worked for them and how they use their passion, and that fire that was burning in their bellies, to be competitive in Super Rugby, and hopefully they'll use that in the beginning, but that eventually runs out, and you've got to start competing against your opponent, and that's going to be the biggest task for Deon Davids and his management is to get in those players in the middle and latter stages of the competition to remain competitive and to remain, as not just more than just competitive, but to remain, within that nature of competing for a place in the playoffs.
The best South African team last year was, of course, the Stormers, making it through to the playoffs. How do you rate their chances in this year's competition? They've got 2 captains now. They decided to go with a co-captain, saying that it would give Skalkberger the opportunity just to focus on his game. Why don't they just give it outright to Jean de Jong? I
think when you look at Jean de Jong's issue is the fact that he's playing a bit of sevens, and there's a chance that he might go to Rio. So, okay. I think that was part of the thinking. But, co-captaincy has worked. We saw it with the reigning champions now at the Highlanders. They had Ben Smith and that Nasimanu who were their co-captains. And we've seen this weekend against the Bulls, Jean de Jong is leading the team and Frans van Herbe sitting on the bench. To me, it could work, couldn't work, but I think what Robbie Fleck has done is probably sensible. He's thinking about the team and how the competition, or how his team will progress later in the competition, and taking into consideration that Jean Dion might not be there if he does go to Rio. So, you look at the Stormers again, the remain favourites year in and year out. I think this year will be extremely important for them. They need to kick on. It's not good enough just getting into the playoffs. They need to get into the semi-finals, need to get into the final, and more than anything, they need to start winning this competition.
Are they our best hope from a South African perspective?
I think them and the Sharks and the Lions remain our best hope. I'm very worried about the Lions because, in the preseason, the game against the Bulls and the Jaguares, they played but didn't play as well. The result didn't go their way. Hopefully, that's just preseason jitters. And in their first match in Tokyo tomorrow, against the Sunwolves, they'll put a marker on how they want to play this season. The good thing about them, they travel away first and then they come back home, which is going to be very, very important. If you lay down a marker on tour, we know what teams that play well away from home, how they come back home and do even better. And that's usually the best way of getting yourselves into a playoff.
You mentioned the Lions, and I want to actually chat about them because we've got the first 3 rounds of fixtures. So let's take a look at those fixtures now, starting with round 1. This is how it's all going to get underway from today when it comes to the Super Rugby competition. And there is much more travelling. We've got 2 brand new regions, Argentina and Japan. And those travelling teams, a travelling team when it comes to Super Rugby has always been a valuable team, a team that can travel well. But, none more so than this year.
I think I want to agree with you. I think, when you look at Africa 2, which is where the Sharks and the Kings and the Lions are, they play the New Zealand Conference, which, it's a longer travel. It's very, very difficult to go to New Zealand. However, South African teams have, over the years, in recent history, equipped themselves well going to New Zealand, especially in the first 2 or 3 weeks. The tour is shorter now. You only play for 3 weeks and you come back home. The Lions fly all the way to Tokyo. They're never going to make a long trek to New Zealand. But they know if...
And in New Zealand, it's not going to be easy either.
No, it won't be easy.
Their last match in New Zealand is against defending champion Highlanders.
No, without a doubt. The jet lag will start setting in, I think, probably in the second week in New Zealand. However, the good thing about that is that they only have 1 more week, then they come back home. And be careful of the Lions when they're playing in Johannesburg. I think they're going to be a very, very dangerous outfit. However, you look at the other Africa pool, Africa 1, you only have to, fly to Argentina and, fly to Australia. And Australia is not really in our time zone, but it's an easier travel, easier getting there, easier getting back. So I think for the Bulls and Stormers and Cheetahs, they might feel as if they've got an easier draw. But again, take nothing away from the Sunwolves. Be careful of that team. Be careful of going to Tokyo. Be careful of going to Singapore. We saw what the national team did to the Springboks at the Rugby World Cup, and they're going to be coming with that same fire, same passion, and they're going to be playing, as if the entire nation depends on it. So I think Super Rugby this year is just going to be, go up a higher notch, and even though the travel is less, but I think the intensity will be much higher.
The intensity will be much higher. All right. A simple yes or no. Are people going to get tired of rugby?
People can never get tired of rugby.
All right, thank you very much. That's Vata Ngobeni, seasoned rugby journalist. That's how we conclude a look at what's been happening in your sports world. We'll have a little bit more.